Continues to mount on Tiger Brands and Rainbow Chicken as several African countries join the ban of the products. On Sunday, the Health Department recalled the ready-to-eat meat products from the brand after Listeriosis bacteria is found in the production plants. Now, the National Consumer Commission is working on a plan to dispose of affected meat.
48 hours after the recall of processed products from Enterprise and Rainbow Chicken, the Tiger Brand factory in Germiston is a ghost town. Down the road, this spaza shop faces a similar fate. The usual lunchtime favorite, quarter, is not faring well, despite having other brands of processed meat with a variety of flavors. Many are skeptical.
We want government to find out what's making people sick. We do have other brand Polonis, but people are scared to buy now. And if this carries on, I'll have to close down.
Polony, Russians and Viennas are a lunchbox staple for many school children and adults. The recall has left many searching for alternatives.
We eat butter, then make an easy sandwich with jam, peanut butter. I'll buy cheese or eggs. Yeah.
People must revert to vegetables, healthy eating.
Yesterday, Tiger Brands denied that its products were directly linked to the outbreak of the bacteria. Food Union FAO has urged the brand to take responsibility for the deaths and illnesses.
We know that now they are calling all the product all over the country, but the end results of that, those workers are the ones that will also feel the pinch, which is not of their own making. I think it's management issue, which will not allow that. It must affect workers at the end of the day.
Several southern African countries have banned the import of the affected products as a precautionary measure. Hasina Gori, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, listeriosis continues to cause panic, and this has raised questions about the safety of processed foods and the regulatory regime. To take us further on this conversation, to explore this further, the head of the Center for Communicable Diseases, Dr. Juno Thomas, joins us now live. Doctor, thank you very much indeed for your time. We know 180 people have died so far. Some of southern African countries are against imports, cold meat imports from South Africa. Is this the worst listeriosis outbreak in the world?
Unfortunately, it is. The World Health Organization has affirmed this, and at 948 cases, it's not only the largest outbreak we've had of a foodborne disease, but it's the world's largest listeriosis outbreak.
Well, the company's Tiger Brand is in the spotlight. They have said that there's no direct link with the deaths to their products. What's your reaction to this?
So, from a scientific point of view, I can say we are confident that the source of the outbreak is the Enterprise Foods factory in Polokwane. There is definitive evidence that the outbreak strain called ST6 of Listeria that has been causing people to develop illness and die is linked to that factory. Over 26 samples that we took from the environment when that factory was visited and investigated actually yielded the outbreak strain. So the environment is quite widely contaminated with the outbreak strain in the Polony section, in the Vienna section, so it's widespread. And I think that from a medical point of view, we are confident that this is the source of the outbreak.
You say it's widespread. Just break down ST6, the strain ST6, the Listeria bacterium. How easy is it to detect this strain?
So, Listeria monocytogenes is the name of the specific bacterium that causes problems when it contaminates food, and then human beings eat it and can develop the disease. And there are many ways in which you can test for it, but typically we use culture. So either from patients who've fallen ill, you take blood specimens or spinal tap specimens in order to test, and we culture that in the laboratory in order to grow the bacteria. And the same process is done with food and environmental samples. So food is taken, or the environment is swabbed or sponged, and those are incubated and the listeria is grown. After that, there's some sophisticated biochemical techniques where you identify the bacterium and then we know it's a Listeria monocytogenes. But to go further, you have to do extremely specialized genetic DNA fingerprinting in order to definitively say the bacteria from this person matches the one that we got from that person, or the bacterium from this food sample matches that of the people or doesn't match. And that's what we've been doing. It is the most discriminatory tool that we have at our disposal, and this is worldwide the case, and it's now become the world standard for listeriosis investigations.
Is that currently happening at the Rainbow Chicken Factory in Sasolburg? I understand they are also under investigation.
So with the RCL production plant in Sasolburg, there were some retail samples that were bought and tested positive for Listeria monocytogenes, and there were 2 different sequence types in those retail samples of chicken polony. And although they are not the strain that's causing the outbreak, the fact is that they still constitute a health hazard by being in a ready-to-eat processed meat. The factory in Sasolburg was also inspected and environmental investigations done, and over 10% of the samples taken there tested positive for Listeria monocytogenes. But the sequence typing of those isolates is still pending.
Now, in terms of the inception of this outbreak, what are some of the possibilities? How do you think this bacterium got into those factories?
So, Listeria in general is a ubiquitous organism. We find it commonly in the environment. It lives in soil, in water, in vegetation. Certain animals carry it in their gut, and in some senses it's really moot, the point of how it got into the processing facility in the first place. It may have been something as simple as someone walking outside, getting soil on the bottom of their shoes, walking into the factory. So any environmental contamination that enters the factory can provide the source of Listeria. Once it's introduced into the processing environment, it very readily takes hold. It attaches onto surfaces, including stainless steel and plastic, and secretes a sort of a sugary slime that adheres it onto surfaces, that it can withstand disinfectants, and that it actually takes quite a lot of effort and trouble to remove. Once it's established in a processing environment, it can stay viable for many years and carry on propagating and replicating itself, and then this allows food to become contaminated when it comes into contact
because
with the bacteria.
It likes cold, wet weather. Is that correct?
So Listeria is very adaptable. It's one of the few food-borne bacteria that actually thrives at refrigeration temperatures. It can survive freezing. It can survive on barely no nutrition in the inanimate environment, but it is effectively killed by cooking.
So, for instance, if you have polony that is infected with Listeria and you fry it, would that get rid of it?
So yes, it would get rid of it. And that was one of the strategies that was being played about with as well. We know that protein is a very rare resource. For people just to throw away the product that they have seems like a waste. However, when we did the investigation at the Polokwane factory, we found that we swabbed the external casings, the plastic on the outside of polony chumps, and we also swabbed the little inside bits alongside the clips, those little folds. And Listeria was isolated from there, the outbreak strain. So that then makes it much more complicated because it means the exterior of the product is also contaminated. So it's then not safe to have in your fridge full stop, because other products that come into contact with it in the fridge then become contaminated.
Many people want to know when this whole issue, this crisis, so to speak, will be eradicated, the Listeria. I mean, when can people eat polony, for instance, again? I mean, people want to know that. What's the process?
So, we've identified the source of the outbreak. The facility is no longer producing ready-to-eat processed meat, and the implicated products have been recalled. However, there are two issues at play. And first is that we need to be sure that this message is going to reach everyone in the country, in the most rural area where people do get reliable resource information, and they're able to understand the risks, and that they then dispose of it safely. So it may take time for that to happen, in which case every day that people are still eating these contaminated items means another day that people can become infected. The other issue is that the incubation period for listeriosis can be very wide, and it can range up to 70 days. So there will be many people who've eaten it before Sunday, and they may only develop disease in a few weeks' time. So we do expect to see ongoing cases for a few weeks and perhaps even a few months, because many of these products have got shelf lives of 4 to 5 months.
Doctor, thank you very much indeed for your time and great insight there. Dr. Juno Thomas is from the National Institute for Communicable Diseases, telling us about how we can treat and what our attitude needs to be with regards to listeriosis. Let's take a bit of a break. More news after this. Stay with us.